Wow, Donald Trump is panicking all morning as this purported deal with Iran that was announced yesterday is completely falling apart under the deal. The United States was going to give Iran about $25 or $26 billion. Iran keeps control of the Strait of Hormuz. Nuclear negotiations would be deferred into a later time, and the war would be over. Ships would be able to exit the Strait of Hormuz. Additional details I, of course, described this morning. Donald Trump then got a call from Netanyahu, as well as the war hawks within the Republican Party. And now Donald Trump seems to be changing his tune that the deal is not done yet, and he wants to take his time on this deal. And all of the terms that were being discussed yesterday with all of these Middle East nations on this conference call, Donald Trump seems to be backtracking on. He seems to be caving on the caving of the caving of the caving. And then he called up ABC and he's like, I can't talk about the deal. I can't talk about it. It's totally up to me. And if there's any news, it will only be good news. I don't make bad deals, but it's only up to me. How about it's up to the American people also? How about there's something called a Congress? And how about there's something called the Constitution? And how about you don't have this authority? And this is why our founders restricted this type of authority. So then you had Netanyahu posting images like this. Iran will never have a nuclear weapon. And then he announced his phone call to Donald Trump. And then shortly after, Donald Trump seems to be changing his tune about whether there's a deal with Iran. This is what Netanyahu posted this morning. I spoke last night with Donald Trump about this memorandum of understanding to reopen the Strait of Hormuz. Trump and I agreed any final agreement with Iran must eliminate the nuclear danger. That means dismantling Iran's nuclear enrichment sites and removing its enriched nuclear material from its territory. Trump also reaffirmed Israel's right to defend itself against threats on every front, including Lebanon. The partnership between us and our two countries has been proven on the battlefield and has never been stronger. Then Donald Trump started posting all of these deranged memes again right after that call with Netanyahu. I don't know, is he trying to impress him? He posts the memes of American drones, many of which were shot down by Iran during this catastrophic war, destroying, in this meme, Iranian Navy ships. You see a drone saying adios. He's doing this again. He's doing these posts again. He posts these images, these images, that bizarre images of him and Xi Jinping that say President Xi and President Trump are amazing. This is what Donald Trump is posting. He puts it in quotes. He's quoting himself as saying President Xi and President Trump are amazing. President Trump gets younger. Okay. Then he has another post with him and Xi Jinping. President Xi and President Trump are amazing. That's what Donald Trump is writing himself. That is utterly deranged. This is a psychotic lunatic. Okay, I mean, I don't know how else to describe it. A lunatic who needs to be in a straitjacket and removed from the White House and impeached immediately. What a pathetic individual this is. Then he posts, China loves Trump. Yay, Donald, China loves Trump. And then he posts a photo of former President Obama in a mugshot with mugshots of James Comey and James Clapper and Ben Rhodes and Valerie Jarrett and Susan Rice. Very normal behavior by a deranged psychotic individual. And Donald Trump posts, attacks Obama's JCPOA non-nuclear deal, which was actually a deal where Iran did not make nuclear weapons. Donald Trump said, one of the worst deals ever made by our country was the Iran nuclear deal put forth by Barack Hussein Obama. Then Donald Trump says, my deal is the exact opposite, in fact. The negotiations are proceeding in an orderly and constructive manner, and I have informed my representatives not to rush into a deal. In that time is on our side. The blockade will remain in full force and effect until an agreement is reached, certified, and signed. Both sides must take their time and get it right. Our relationship with Iran is becoming much more professional and much more productive. Interesting. Let me take a look at what the Iranians are saying today at their martyrdom ceremony. Moshe Razi, who's one of the top IRGC commanders, or was, and now he's a advisor to the Ayatollah. Here's what he said, Donald. America after the Ramadan war will no longer return to being America America of the old. But both our combatants today have their hands on the trigger, and our negotiators are striving to secure the rights of the Iranian nation. In both dimensions, the war is being managed. How about the prosecutor general of the country? The victory of the Iranian nation is the result of the blessing of the blood of the martyred leader of the revolution. We must be ready in all arenas. Unity and presidents of the people are among the effective factors that hold importance in the final victory against the enemy. How about the head of Tehran City Council? We are prepared for military confrontations and war. The readiness of the Iranian nation against enemies is such that it leads greater power and greater ability to confront. Readiness means we must not have any kind of leniency or negligence regarding the demands that we have announced. And now Iran's Tasnim news agencies reporting the following. U.S. obstruction of some clauses of this agreement, including the issue of releasing Iran's blocked assets, still continues. They go on to say, accordingly, there is still a possibility that this agreement may be canceled, a deal that we thought could happen yesterday. Donald Trump is now, as I said, caving on caving on caving. He is so utterly pathetic. But all Donald Trump really wants to talk about is his golden ballroom, and how this other purported incident outside of the White House yesterday now means that the Golden Ballroom must need to be built. And yet another purported assassination attempt, while all of your war hawk MAGAs were criticizing your catastrophic deal in a catastrophic war. So then you had Kevin Hassett, your national economic advisor. He was making his rounds on the morning shows today. And what's the topic? Ballroom as a result of the shooting that took place yesterday. Who could have predicted that? Oh, me? Play the clip.
On Friday. But the bottom line is the president believes that the ballroom is something that should have been there for a long time. And he's using his own money and the money of donors to make it so that the taxpayers don't have to pay for that ballroom. And as far as weaponization, I don't think that
they would have to pay
$1
billion, correct?
No, it's not for the ballroom. That's for securing the entire White House. And my goodness, to argue about that after we were all here yesterday, I actually wasn't here. I was at my home a couple blocks away when the shooting happened. Of course, we've got to make the White House more secure.
Then you have Mike Johnson. Ron Johnson, not Mike. You have MAGA Republican Ron Johnson from Wisconsin. Here's what he had to say. Let's play this clip right here.
Move on to the ballroom because there is an issue about funding for security purposes. After what we saw happen at the White House Correspondents' Dinner, the president definitely talked about the ballroom being necessary for many reasons, but that it also is a national security issue. That is a sticking point as well right now. Your thoughts?
Well, I also support funding for that national security component of that. What's going to be underneath that ballroom? I don't want to talk further about it than that. But I mean, there's certainly a national security component. And listen, I'm a big fiscal hawk.
And then I just think it's notable that you have all of these MAGA war hawks and Netanyahu telling Donald Trump, don't do the deal, don't do the deal. And then Donald Trump is now like, oh, maybe we need to take more time. This is why Donald Trump is so utterly weak. It's just notable to me. You had this MAGA Republican Senator Wicker also, and he made this post criticizing Donald Trump. He goes, if you do this deal, it's going to be a disastrous deal. Here's his headline from Ground News. Wicker warns Trump against ill-advised Iran deal. We must finish what we started. And that's what Wicker's saying, and Netanyahu, and that's what these MAGA war and Lindsey Graham this morning and Ted Cruz. We must finish what we started. Notice right here, because Ground News keeps track of this stuff, that this is being pushed mostly right now on right-wing media. We need to finish what we started. We need to keep warmonger, more war, more killing. Because as Donald Trump has people suffering in this country who can't afford anything, and their health care is being taken away, has been taken away, they can't afford gas, can't afford anything. It's just a constant state of war. War is peace. It is their way. And then they're going to go to Cuba next probably and do a war there. By the way, when I just did this analysis, I used Ground News to see what's the right reporting, what's the left reporting, what's the center reporting. It's my research tool that I use in the morning to do these videos. It's why I partner with Ground News for episodes like this. They're the best tool for me to stay objective with my reporting. It's an app and a website that pulls in thousands of articles from around the world and organizes them by story to show you how the left, center, and right are framing the story differently. For every story, there's a color-coded layout, and it makes it easy to see the political bias of each source. I can filter for high factuality sources, see which sources are independently owned or owned by a large media conglomerate with corporate interests. This lets you compare reporting on the same issue in one place, so you can come to your own conclusions based on all of the facts. On this article, for example, regarding MAGA Republican Senator Wicker, I saw that it was primarily being pushed among right-wing leaning news. And again, Ground News has this dedicated blind spot feed, which is a personal favorite of mine, which highlights stories being disproportionately covered on either side of the political aisle, helps you burst through those political echo chambers. I believe in Ground News so much, we're going to offer you 40% off the same Vantage plan that I use for my research here right now. Just go click the link in the description or go to ground.news/MTN or scan the QR code up here. It's one of the biggest discounts they've ever offered. If you want to support the channel and get a clearer understanding of the world, try out Ground News. One more time, go to ground.news/MTN. Now back to my reporting here. I showed you a clip of Donald Trump's National Economic Advisor, Kevin Hassett, before. Kevin Hassett this whole morning was also saying that the economy is doing great. Everyone's doing amazing. If anything, this catastrophic war in Iran has made the economy even better for most Americans. Here's what he's had to say. Let's play this clip.
You don't dispute that the war has taken a toll on parts of the economy.
Right now, consumer confidence is the highest it's been in since the beginning of the year. And so you don't see a toll of the war on consumer confidence, which is the Conference Board survey. But again, GDP now, the Atlanta Fed's estimate of second quarter GDP is north of 4%. We've got initial claims for unemployment insurance as low as they've been since the 60s. And so there's so much going on that is really, I think, surprising people that think that the disruption from the Middle East is going to harm the economy. It's just not there in the data.
Then you have MAGA Republican Senator Haggerty, who of course says, well, look, who we really need to blame for everything is Obama. Everything is Obama's fault. And Donald Trump's going to do like the opposite of the Obama JCPOA deal. Really, because the terms that were being discussed yesterday when we believe there was a deal was basically a version of the Obama deal that was 1,000 times weaker than the Obama deal. And then Netanyahu and all of you called Donald Trump and said, don't do that deal. And now Donald Trump's out there saying that he may not do this deal. Okay, here, play this clip.
Well, and certainly we all need to see a final agreement. But what I heard this morning, you just recited it, is exactly what I would expect to hear. That it's been made very clear, there will be no final agreement until it's clear that Iran has no path to enrich, that they will have no path to have a nuclear weapon. The exact opposite of what Obama and Biden did. I think what you've seen is the Obama administration officials, those that were cited, basically praying that they're not going to be completely embarrassed, which I think they will be, because President Trump is going to come up with a fundamentally deal that is the opposite of what the JCPOA addressed. So I'm looking forward to seeing the terms. I think the terms will be strict. I think they'll be very enforceable. And remember, Jackie, President Trump has used military force to basically annihilate the economic, the technological, and the military capacity of the Iranian regime.
Also, you have Iran posting things like this. They say goodbye. We say good riddance, and it's a map of the Middle East with American flags being swept off the map of the Middle East. You have them, how Donald Trump posted a map of Iran with the American flag on it. Iran responded by posting a map of the United States of America with the Iranian flag on it. And they write Islamic Republic of the Far West. And folks, with all of this news as well, I want to also make sure we don't forget about what's happening in Ukraine right now. Russia's Ministry of Defense says it carried out what it's referring to as a retaliatory strike. That's how Russia's framing it, on Ukrainian military and industrial targets using its Erratic, Iskander, Kinzhal, and Zarkon missiles. It was one of the deadliest and most catastrophic days in Kyiv since the beginning of the war. Zelensky put out the following message on the Russian missile attack overnight. Zelensky writes, it was a heavy strike, 90 missiles of various types. Most of them were ballistic, 36 and 600 drones. Unfortunately, not all the ballistic missiles could be shot down. The most hits were in Kyiv, and Kyiv itself was the main target of the Russian attack. Putin can't even pronounce the word hurrah normally anymore. He slurs his words, yet he is still defeating residential buildings with his missiles. 3 Russian missiles against a water supply facility. He burned down a market, damaged dozens of residential buildings, and several ordinary schools. He launched his Erratic against Bielizverka. Well, He is truly unhinged. That message comes from President Zelensky of Ukraine. And it's important to remember that Donald Trump promised that he was going to end the war in Ukraine in 24 hours of winning the election, not even when he would take office. He's failed to do that. He's lied about making progress there now for close to 2 years. And he shows utter weakness. He's utterly weak. And I think that's what the whole world is seeing at this point. He'll announce a deal, then he won't do the deal, and then he just freezes. He's frozen. He doesn't know what to do. He's flailing. He's pathetic. And meanwhile, the American people are suffering. This is why I don't care what political party you're from. Leadership is an important quality. Leadership. Like we need grown-ups who are smart, who are well-read, who surround themselves with experts, who can make decisions. And Donald Trump, his whole life, has been a pathetic loser who's been bailed out by people. He's bankrupted things, and he's failed his way to the presidency by being a con artist. Let's call it out, folks. Let's call it out. We'll keep you posted every step of the way. Hit subscribe. Let's get to 7 million subscribers. And thanks for watching, everybody.
New Meidas merch drop! Check out the latest pro-democracy sticker packs, t-shirts, hats, sweatshirts, and more. All at store.MeidasTouch.com.